Alright, what's going on, everybody? You know who it is. I don't need to say it, but I'm going to say it. You don't want to say it. I like calling myself a motherfucking witch, baby. I am the ceremonial witch. I am a witch who practices ceremonial magic, but practice a whole lot of other shit too. And what I'm going to talk about today is going to be a little fucked up because I never knew. I was never sure. I don't even know how to word this shit. Sorry, well, let's see if my wife's coming or not. She's shopping. Fucking shit's everywhere is open today. It's fucking crazy, man. I'm celebrating my daughter's birthday today. Yay! Just like my birthday about a month ago, maybe a little less. It was the weekend I had to do nights. One day off. Everybody's coming over for that day off. Whee! Oh, it is what it is. But anyways, I always thought, fuck, I don't know how to word this. I always thought that, how you interpret something is probably more important than the realist interpretation. Meaning, you don't have to believe in the Bible, but then you can just read the Bible and get some good messages from it. And I still think that's true to a certain degree, but in the same sense, it depends on where you are, because if you are very polarized against the Bible and hate it, then it's going to be very hard to see any messages. And in all honesty, maybe I'm just finding meanings in messages and being all fucking love and light too much over something that shouldn't matter. But when it came to astrology, I had never actually thought about the actual placements of the stars versus what it says on my chart and the current transits and shit like that. So I was always curious, but never wanted to look into it in case my birth chart changed. So I guess I was a little fearful because I like most of my placements. Not gonna lie. At first when I first saw all my Taurus shit, I was like, oh, there's never anything good to say about Taurus, but they're fucking lazy, this, that, and the other thing. And then, the more I learned about earth signs being a negative, and then, so it really depends on the planets in there that could change what it does. Taurus is just, there's so many things associated with Taurus, and then when you add a planet in there, it either heightens or makes those things worse. Sometimes you'll have these complete meanings, and it depends on, if there's a lot of celebrities with a certain sign or whatever the case is, then we know more about it, because then you have these real life testimonies versus Joe Blow that no one knows that had this placement and he did this. It's just facts that no one really knows. But when you say, well, Tom Cruise had this, and everybody sees Tom Cruise persona, which could be bullshit, by the way. He is an actor, so he could be acting. But anyways, point is, people know these people from the screen, from whatever they put out on TV, from whatever. But anyways, so I never wanted to look into the whole. I followed Vedic astrology because I drew from their interpretations. KRS astrology is one of my favorites, and Astralada is my two favorite go-tos for, astrology period, but Vedic astrology as well. So, and recently I haven't even been looking into astrology. I started this year off by saying I'm going to get into more astrology-based videos and talking about astrology. I'm going to try to talk about astrology on every podcast. And then I got into this whole video making thing instead of doing just the podcasting, and then putting my podcast on YouTube, which they automatically go there. But instead of doing what I said I was going to do, I switched it all up, and now I haven't even made a podcast in, I want to say, about 3 weeks now, because my laptop went down mysteriously 3 weeks ago. But I had been having issues with the battery keeping power, but the fucking thing it charges and will turn on, but then it won't get past the opening screen. So I've done everything on my potential. I'm normally pretty good at tinkering and stuff, and doing basic things to clean and get things started whenever they are simple little loose connections or little problems like that, or a simple needing to solder some electrical fucking wires back on, because sometimes it could be from a kid's toy to a fucking cell phone to a fucking computer. If one of those wires are no longer soldered to the circuit board, well, simple fix, solder it back on. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you have something that's not worth like $40, well, then it's probably best to just buy the thing again. But if this problem happens to you a lot, then a $40 soldering iron is probably a good investment, because all you have to do is take a couple screws off, because you already have the screwdrivers. You're not buying those. And then you just got to use your soldering iron and buy some solder, you know what I mean? It becomes a lot cheaper in the long run. Plus, there's a lot of useful things you can learn by doing little electrical fucking projects and shit like that. Learning about circuits, learning about energy is great. When you learn about how the electrical current flows through things, I mean, you're going to realize how your body works. Maybe you're going to start getting some intuitional thoughts about how prana may work, and how your energy transfers to people, and maybe how energy vampires are not necessarily a real thing, but you can see where the concept came from and why people assume that that's actually what happens. And I mean, there is something that happens that is akin to that. I wouldn't necessarily as people sucking off you, but you know, if you're around a narcissistic person who steals all the attention and focuses and makes everything about them, and you can't even have any of your own thoughts when you're around them, because all they do is focus on them so goddamn loudly that you can't even hear yourself fucking think, well, yeah, you can understand where that shit comes from, right? They're stealing all the attention, and they want you to feel bad for them. So even if you're in a good mood, the minute you see them and you know what they're going to do and say, well, then you become in a bad mood. So it's like they're sucking your energy, but really, you're still allowing them to bring you in that bad mood. You have the choice to go see them or not. And even when you see them on the street, you have the choice to accept what they're selling you, or you have the choice to say, you know what? Stop being a victim, man. Fix it, man. Stop bitching about it and just fix your fucking problems. Leave me the fuck alone. And you might feel like an asshole after that. And you can be damn sure that that fucking narcissist is gonna turn you into the bad guy and victimize himself even more and guilt you about what you did. But you know, if everybody who saw that fucker did that to that person, told them to grow the fuck up and fix their fucking problems, well, then they might realize that they're the common denominator, that every one of their friends is telling them the same fucking thing. It can't be all their friends that are the problem. It's got to be them. So that's just some food for thought. But anyways, so I started looking back into Vedic astrology. Started watching some videos, and I said, fuck it. I'll listen to Thunder Wizard. And I always let that guy get in my head for some reason. But, you know, he's teaching me shit. Even though, like, I told myself, you know what? I can't be someone who's coming out here and trying to help people, yet shitting on somebody for their views and beliefs. And he's right, after not even watching his entire video, all his videos. So that's what I started doing, so I can understand him better. And once again, I do that when I'm actively looking at something, I do look at both sides of the story. I look at the for, I look at the against, if there is that. Sometimes it's just facts. But I look at the for, and I look at the against point of views. I look at everything in between, and then I come up with my judgment, because I'm a firm believer of, if there's an official story, and then there's a, like 9/11, let's say. 9/11, there's an official story. 9/11, there's a conspiracy. Well, I think the truth's somewhere in there, because nothing is fucking all right or all wrong. Nothing is fucking all benevolent or all maleficent. Look at Jupiter. Jupiter is a beneficial planet, right? Well, let's look at the actual planet Jupiter for a second. You can say, well, that's not what Jupiter is. Jupiter is not the thing in the sky. I'm like, yeah, but it is. It has something to do with that thing in the sky, because when that thing in the sky is in a certain spot in the sky when you're fucking born, it does certain things to you. So how can you say that that planet has nothing to fucking do with Jupiter? So that is a symbolic representation of the mundane. These planets are so important to us that they have representations in the sky. Okay? Understand that. Now you can say, if you believe in Christianity and Jesus Christ and all that, you could say, well, astrology stole Jesus and the sun sun's a representation of Jesus, not the other way around. No, that's wrong. The sun's been around a lot longer than Jesus, and that much we fucking know from all the traditions that are still around today that have documentation of the sun, and their documentation is from before the Bible was written. And we know when the Bible was written. The Bible wasn't written at fucking age 0 like people think, or just because it started talking about zeroing on doesn't mean it's from that time. Those are assumptions made from, I think it was 342 at the Council of Nicaea, when they officially put all the documents together to make what we know today of as the Holy Bible. As far as I can tell, is when it was put all together. But things could have been added and taken out. They could have created stories. They could have removed stories. Like, we don't know. We know what they tell us. That's all we can know. But nonetheless, the point is, these representations in the sky have such a profound effect on us. We have to have some symbolic representation here in the 3D mundane. Whereas if you have a religion that doesn't have a representation somewhere in the mundane, where all it is you having to believe, only having to rely on thought forms and thoughts and think you know what the fuck's going on, you know what I mean? Like in the Jesus, the God story and all this, we don't have any representations somewhere, elsewhere, elusive, a constellation, anything, anywhere, besides man-made structures, crosses, paintings. I mean, that's all man-made. But what's something that was created by whatever may have created us to tell us what is what? Well, we have the stars, we have the moon, the sun that we can see that's bigger than life, and then we have all those other planets. I mean, the moon and the sun arguably have the biggest effect on our life, which is why they're the biggest. And then our Earth, but our Earth is part of us, so we don't have it in our astrology chart, because whenever we look at us in astrology, and this is just my belief, but when we look at us in astrology, we are part of Gaia. We're looking at our own personal little place where Gaia is going to be on the solar system. But anyways, all of this just to say that if you look at the planet Jupiter in reference to what we're talking about in astrology and all that, planet Jupiter is a benevolent planet, the benevolent king. There's not too many things he does wrong. Now, he can give you just as much money and health and wealth as he can give you just as much cancer spreading all over your body. He doesn't believe in too much of a bad thing. He believes in just giving, whatever the fuck you say you want. And the way he knows what you want, by the way, is by what you're dwelling on, what you're focusing on, what you're thinking about over and over and over again. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. He doesn't know what good and bad is to you. You can't keep up. Some people want bad, some people want good. What I mean is, one person's version of good might be someone else's version of bad. Because look at the Thunder Wizard. He does not like Christianity. He does not like God. He thinks Jesus is an asshole, is what he said. Well, how many people would think that point of view is hell, devil, bad, right? So if Jupiter is looking at a Christian and then looking at the Thunder Wizard, well, their opinions of heaven are going to be two completely different things. So how can Jupiter give good to both these people at the same time, when both their definitions of good is bad? So for the Christian, if Jupiter gives that person a good heaven, it's going to be with God and Jesus and angels and all this shit. Whereas Thunder Wizard wouldn't like that. He would like deity, like the Norse mythology. Maybe he wants to see, Odin there, chill with Odin. I know he likes Hela, so maybe he wants to hang out with Hela. Well, most Christians would say, no, that would be hell. So how can this guy's hell be his heaven, and how can this person's heaven be this guy's hell? So how can Jupiter judge which one gets good and which one gets bad? Or it can't be just one size fits all. Here's a bunch of good for yous, here's a bunch of good for you. It's going to be like, well, that person's good is different from this person's good. You see where I'm trying to go with this? There's two different versions of good. So we can't just give good. And this is why he says, well, you know what? Fuck it. Whatever they're dwelling on, whatever they say they want, whatever they're focusing on is just what I'm going to give them. Because why would you focus on something you don't want? That's just counterintuitive, right? So that's what I'll do from going forward. And so that's what he does. And so if you're focusing on dumb shit, bullshit, well, that's what's going to happen. Alright, so party time there in about less than an hour. Gotta go grab a shower. But I just want to finish up my thought, I guess, what I was going to say about Jupiter at least. So all that being said about the planets, how the representations, how they are so important, or at least were so important to us, that whether our thought manifested those spheres in the sky, or those are always there and we just ended up manifesting ways to see them, because I mean, some of the information about the planets, all of it basically predates our ability to see them. Maybe not with a physical eye. Excuse me, Corona. What's wrong? Alright, sorry about that. My 4-year-old was cleaning up this pool out and fell. So she was a little sad and, you know, acknowledge it, kiss it. And so I let her, tell her to go enjoy the pool, and she does, so magic, baby. Just in the thoughts. To her, mommy and daddy can kiss your bobos away. Especially if it's a bobo that doesn't have a mark, like a scar, a scratch. We can totally fix those bobos, because out of sight, out of mind. And sometimes, you know, the only way to debunk a theory that pain is the only thing you can't ignore, because all the, you know, Peterson and other people say you can't try to remove pain, you know, because you can remove happiness, pleasure, you know, the reward system. You can stop that from occurring, but you can't stop depression and pain from occurring. And, you know, a couple ways to say, well, you kind of can, but like a sociopath, they don't feel emotion. Thus, if you don't feel emotion, you can't get depressed. Because only if you feel emotion can you be depressed, because you have no positive emotion and you're in negative emotion. So therefore, that's one way. And I guess the other way would be a child, a baby. Like my daughter, she was just sad, kissed it, and she was back to happy. So you can remove pain. Now when there's a mark there, a scar there, especially if there's blood, then they can remember, even a bruise, then they know that something happened, and it triggers something in their mind like, oh yeah, that hurt when that happened. So therefore, there is a way to remind her. But if there's no way to remind them there, it's very easy to kiss that bobo away and fuck, they just overcome it. It's pretty amazing. If we could all remember and tap into that ability, then that's basically doing healing magic. Alright, sorry about that. Anyways, so back to the planets. This is maybe the one reason why, if you are someone who doesn't believe the moon is a surface you can land on, or a planet, well, not necessarily, but if you don't believe we went to the moon, or if you believe the earth is flat or something like that, I'm not against anybody's beliefs, and I'm not going to tell you what to believe either. I'll tell you my opinion and why I think the things I think, but I'm not going to force that on you. But because like I said before, whether or not we landed physically on the moon or not doesn't matter to me. Is the moon a planet that's all plasma or water and that we can't physically land on it? Maybe. That's one of the opinions. See, one of the evidences that we went to the moon was that we brought back moon rocks, which we have. But then there's another, I forget the name of the scientist, and I'll try to find it one of these days and put it on here. But he went on record saying that we never landed on the moon. And I forget, there's something weird that happened with his death and all that, obviously, right? But apparently he said we never went to the moon. The moon is a plasma, you can't land on the plasma. But nonetheless, see, that doesn't stunt my belief in astrology and what these planets affect us with. It just makes me maybe not believe in the idea of humans actually physically going to the moon. Once again, I don't know if it's all water or some water and some land. Maybe it's mostly water and some land, right? So who knows? I surely don't. But I do believe in those spheres up in the sky. And what I'm trying to get at is, I don't know if we manifested those spheres by believing in them. We believe in the sun, we believe in the moon, so physically became, pretty sure they had to be here before us, so it's not really a topic worth thinking about. Those things were already here, they were already created. Because like our knowledge of those things are in books before we were able to actually see them through telescopes and what have you. Before we were able to go to space, we knew they were there. Before we were even able to see them, except for with our eyes and looking up at the sky at night, we weren't able to see them up close, personal, know what they look like. But now you can see Saturn's rings with a telescope. You can see Jupiter's, little set dot with where all the tornadoes and all this activity. Basically, what do you fuck? I don't have it on mind for blank there right now. But like weather anomalies and tornadoes, volcanoes and shit. Just always a shit show, I guess, in that little center. But and that's kind of what I want to talk about. But you can see the moons from these planets. You can even see past there. You can see Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, which were only added in later. But all these things that are above us are also below us. You know, are how would I word that? Anyways, so, but point is, my belief of us may or may not actually landing on the moon doesn't stunt my ability to believe in astrology. And the more I believe in astrology, the more it seems less likely that the moon is what they're telling us it is. But it doesn't matter. Like, I know you shouldn't trust anybody at face value, whether that's the quote-unquote experts, the authorities telling you what information to believe, or if that's, you know, just Joe Blow who says, hey, trust me, I'll double your money. It's like, no, what have you done to earn my trust? And I know it's a shitty way to view people, but in this day and age, you kind of have to have a little bit of skepticism, a healthy amount. Because if you are in love and light all the time, you trust, you think everybody's good, well, you're going to get taken. You're going to be conned. You're going to be fucked over. Likewise, if you never take a chance with people and believe people are only corrupt and only capable of malevolence, and you think everybody's lying to us, from the government to your mom, then you're never going to have any healthy relationships. You're not going to be able to trust anybody. So you have to find a healthy balance. This is why I say it's always the middle path. The middle path is a staggered path. You go from back to forth to right to left when you have to. But generally you start off in the middle. And then whenever you go somewhere and there's both extremes, well, you need to figure out which one's going to suit you best. If someone's too much to the right, then you might have to go from a little bit to the left to get them to realize what's going on. Sorry about this. I know you guys can't tell because it's all like clumped together from my movie there, but I gotta keep stopping because I keep being interrupted in my room. Probably because I'm not at the party, but technically it's not 3 yet, so I haven't started. But, you know, still, my daughter's birthday. But I haven't finished my thought. I haven't even got to it yet, but, you know, I'm on to something else right now that I want to elaborate on, so. And yes, I am going to the bathroom, urinating, peeing right now, so. Alright, sorry about that. Wash my hands. Alright, so now that I wash my hands and I'm protected from corona, I can finish this thought, hopefully. Oh, fuck. Alright. So, where was I? Planets. Okay, so anyways, so the planets predate Bible, so we didn't steal the sun idea from Christianity, because Christianity only has the sun, and that's why it's unbalanced. It doesn't focus on any more energies in the body. And now this might be wrong, so I'm not going to say it's right and what you should do, but in my opinion, all these other traditions, whether it's a Germanic, I can't say that word, but German or origins from, you know, like Vikings, like the Norse tradition tends to be Vikings. They have a few though, or, you know, Icelandic also has a Viking derivative. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same as Norse. Maybe it is. I don't know, so I'm not going to say for sure. Or if it's from African places, like, well, Egypt is not Africa, but it's on that continent, same continent, right? So it's different ways of describing these same energies to me. Now, depending on the people and the way they've cultivated their spirituality, these things can help you, because whether it's Odin or it's Osiris, you know, right, or God, or Jesus. Well, I'm not saying guy there anymore, but, you know, Jesus would be more like Thor in my opinion. But, you know, the sun is also a version of Jesus, so, you know, the sun is kind of like a Jesus-sun mix, you know. And then you got like people like Moses, who's a prophet in there, which is kind of like Mars, not as important, but still has an influence on you, you know. And, you know, Saint Peter would be more like Jupiter, I guess, but so that's why it doesn't really mix well, because they're trying to do too many things at once. You know, they start off on one thing, they keep evolving, which is fine for me in my way of believing in spirituality, because I like to pick and choose from different spiritualities to ultimately come up with my version of what these energies are within my body and what's the best way to interpret them. And once you can interpret them and understand them, then you can cultivate, not necessarily manipulate, but be able to get them to work for you versus against you. Because These same energies within your body are also in your unconscious. They're also in your subconscious. They're also in your conscience. They're everywhere. As above, so below. It's not just one level or another. It's so outstandingly in depth and complicated that it almost seems simple when you break it down. That these energies are just in everything, and you have to fucking figure them out. And how do you do that? Well, you start off wherever you can start. Whatever you understand the most, that's where you start. But that's why my basic understanding and why ceremonial magic and witchcraft is how I do this, because witchcraft might be the darker end, and ceremonial magic might be the lighter end. We're both positive and negative. So if I have one system, which you can have this very neutral system that deals with both. And I think ceremonial magic, in a sense, does that, because some people view ceremonial magic as evil, of the devil. And then there's some people that are more completely left-handed path that believe ceremonial magic is another Abrahamic religion. So to me, that makes it very neutral, because both extremes don't want to associate with it. So on the left-hand, people don't want to associate with it, Kabbalah magic, and the right-hand people don't want to associate it with it because it's left-hand for them. Well, to me, that's like platinum, right? When you put platinum beside silver, it looks like gold. When you put gold beside platinum, or when you put platinum beside gold, it looks like silver, right? Well, when you put ceremonial magic besides, Luciferianism or Satanism, it kind of looks like, God stuff. It looks like Christianity. But when you put ceremonial magic beside Christianity, well, then it looks like the devil, Satanist stuff. So therefore, it's a neutral path to me. And I think it works well. But within my neutral path, I also use something maybe a little darker, and I use stuff that are a little lighter. And this is one of the reasons why I've been reading the tip-offs, because, as much as you can break this stuff down and say, hey, this is the neutral path, within your neutral path, you still have polarity. And you break down that polarity, and it's endless. And you can get lost in that shit. So just, keep it under control is all I'm saying. And that's why I do this stuff. That's why I do it the way I do. But anyways, back to the point. So within everything, there's positive and negative, even a planet like Jupiter. So this is the example I was going to give earlier. For fucking God knows what the example was for now. I have no idea. But I was going to say, within Jupiter, this benevolent king who believes in giving, and can definitely be one of the most loved planets. And I think it is most of the time, even though you'll probably learn more from the negative than you do from the positive. But once again, this planet is so benevolent, yet it's got this little red eye shape on it. And that little red eye shape is just where the malevolence is. It's all concentrated in one area. It's like somebody suppressing something. You're all love and light all the time, but you got this little spot of darkness. And you can say, well, at least it's only like 1% of me is dark, and the rest of the 99% of me is love and light. That's better than most people. And yeah, okay, depending on your opinion, better. But if someone activates that little 1%, whether it's, you have children and someone attacks your kids and they open that fucking thing up, well, then you're going to lose it. And maybe that person deserves it. They're trying to harm your children. Well, you got to defend your children, right? But what happens when you go overboard and you decide to fuck that person's life up, and then their family life up, and you go to fuck their kids up because you're so dark and twisted down that you untapped that 1% of you that's dark, and then the very thing that activated you, the very thing you decided to defend was your child. You start hacking this person's children. Say, you fucking like it. That'll teach you a lesson. And you justify it in your head in these all fucked up ways that make no sense to anybody else but you. And you start thinking everybody else is the issue, that you're balanced and everybody else is unbalanced. And it's like, no, bud, you're imbalanced. But you gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself. And, that's how this shit happens. So it doesn't matter if you have 1% or 49% of darkness. You need to deal with that. In my opinion, if you got 49% to 51 ratio, you're more balanced than anybody. Perfect 50-50 is what you need, because to achieve that, you need to understand that darkness and negativity and negative side of you, and the bad, quote unquote, is not bad. It's a useful polarity that as a magician and a witch, I use when it's necessary. And when it's unnecessary, I don't use it. So if I come on here and I say stuff that is love and light and kind of new agey, it's for a reason. It's because I want to uplift people. I want to give people hope in a dark time. But it doesn't mean that's my complete and utter goal. It's what I live by. It's not my philosophy. I'm definitely not a light person. I'm more dark than anything. But anyway, so Vedic astrology. I always assumed that the astrology I did was accurate, and I didn't want to open up, something. I didn't want to have a whole new chart and change everything I've already looked at and understood and interpreted. So I postponed it. I was suppressing it. And when I looked at my Vedic chart, because the charts I was using before, topical. I don't know if that's the difference. If it's topical versus sidereal. But sidereal one doesn't take into account whatever it is it does take into account. I know what it is. It's like this time, because of the way the equinoxes and something. Anyways, currently right now, when most people thought Saturn was in Aquarius already, it actually wasn't. It was in Capricorn. So, and you can say, well, that's not true. But if you look up in the sky, you'll see it. And I did it so I could see it. And well, I looked at where the moon was. And it was like, well, according to mine, the moon should be in this sign, yet it's in this sign. I was like, what the fuck? So I checked in real time where it was, and it showed me in real time where it was. So I'm not dissing anybody who decides to use the other way of astrology versus a sidereal. Vedic is not the only one who uses a sidereal, but it's probably one of the oldest versions of astrology. I don't know which one is the oldest, so I'm not going to say it's the very oldest, but we're talking about like these people from, I want to say India, but I don't really know, using Vedic astrology have been around forever, but there's other ones that have been around just as long, maybe even longer. Point is, it was not many, like I said, 3 of my signs changed, but important ones, my Saturn, my ascendant, and another one. And what I did was I listened to both of them, and I would still tell you right now to this day, be honest with yourself, listen to both interpretations, then do your own research, your own interpretations from other people. Like I said, go on YouTube and type in Saturn and Scorpio, or Aries and Sun in Aries, or Ascendant Aries, shit like that, and then see which one resonates with you more, and then go from there, make a choice. I know that's, most people will pick the better one. This one's got more psychic powers, this one's got less bad things, So, because I wasn't thrilled about the ones I heard at all, but it is what it is. All right, so right here, this is a South Indian chart of my chart now in Vedic astrology. So Jupiter is still in the 12th house. Actually, before Jupiter was in my old chart, Jupiter was in Pisces, but it was in my 11th house. Now, according to this, it's in Aquarius, but in the 12th house still. Mars is in the 9th house in Sagittarius. I believe that hasn't changed. In my old chart, it also said Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. So you're not going to see this in these charts because they only focus on the 7, plus Ketu and Rahu. But I believe Mars was always in Sagittarius, and right before that was Capricorn, and that's where Saturn was with Uranus in Capricorn, and Mars was with Neptune in Sagittarius. So Mars is still in the same spot. Now Saturn is now in in Scorpio, which is kind of a shitty thing, but can be a good thing, but it's got way more negatives than positives, with Ketu right beside him in the 7th house. Moon and Venus are still both in, Moon and Venus are in 1st house. What is that saying? Is that my 2nd house? No, that's my 2nd house. The 2 is moved over with the 3rd house just so because they had to have the room to put in Moon and Venus. So Moon and Venus are still in my 2nd house. But Gemini is the 3rd house, Where does it say Moon and Venus is here? Moon is in Taurus. So Moon and Venus are both still in the second house, but they're with Taurus now, meaning Taurus is my second house and Aries is my first house, which is probably the most significant change. Would be Aries is now my ascendant. Aries is my ascendant and my sun sign. And my moon sign is now Taurus and it's no longer Gemini. So that's a little different. So Saturn is now in Scorpio, which is probably the biggest change, meaning because Saturn was in my 7th house in Capricorn. So not only did it change houses, it also changed signs. Whereas the Moon and Venus are both still in the 2nd house, but now there's a different sign there. It's now Taurus. And my first one, I still have Mercury. So I had Chiron. No, Chiron was in Aries in the other one. But anyways, my North Node was also in Aries. So that hasn't changed. That's what Rahu is. Those are the nodes of the moon. And Mercury and the Sun are all in my first house, which was the case as well, but my first house used to be Taurus. So once again, this one was a sign change, right? It went from Taurus to Aries. So, but I saw the same house. Same with this one. I'm still in the same house, but the sign changed as well. Whereas, like I said over here, I have Saturn now in a whole different sign, and a whole different sign, and a whole different house. Whereas Mars, it just changed. Mars is still in Sagittarius, and it's in the 9th house, or not the 9th house, where's Mars? I think it's the 10th house. I think that's still the same. I'm not positive in Jupiter. So I do have actually more changes. It's still very similar, but there's still has more changes than 3 than what I thought. Here's a different version of the same kind of chart. Venus and Moon, 2nd house Taurus over there, 1st house right here, which is right opposite K2. So Rahu and K2 are opposite each other, North Node and South Node, right? So the South Node, K2, is what I'm comfortable at. So whatever the 7th house. See, before, I used to be in the 6th house and on Scorpio, I believe. Whereas now my Saturn is in Scorpio. And Mars is right there beside it, which Mars rules Scorpio. Mars is in the 9th house in Sagittarius, where Saturn's in the 8th. But anyway, so this is just my new chart now. If I can find a picture of my old chart, I will show you. After I gotta go grab that shower I keep talking about, but there's a lot more in-depth searching I have to do. But you know, Saturn in Scorpio basically is definitely a huge thing. First of all, anatomy wise, it means I have small testicles, or small penis is what it's supposed to mean, which, you know, I'm 5'10" and I've got 6.5 inches, so that's pretty. That's average, I'd say. I think average is actually 5 inches, so I'm slightly above average, but that's not huge, I guess. But I'm not ashamed of it. But I was a late bloomer, so maybe that's what that means as well for people. I always thought I had Jupiter in the 12th house, which means I have big feet. My feet aren't that exceptionally big. I mean, I got a size 11 for someone 5'10", you know. Normally 11 would mean 5'11". Size 12 is 5'12" or 6 foot. So, but, you know, it is what it is. But I was a late bloomer, and now with the different exercises, like I don't do tantric anything, but I've read a few books, so that doesn't make me an expert at all. But I know a little bit about certain things, practices. Like I said, focusing on breath while you're doing it can help you stop from coming, and clenching your butt cheeks when you're about to also stops. In this way, the man can have an actual orgasm versus the way we normally orgasm, which is a whole different feeling apparently, but it's nothing I've mastered. The only thing I've gotten good at was being able to control myself from getting too excited. So, but nonetheless, because different exercises I do, kind of like girl exercises where they squeeze, well, we have the same thing, except when you do our exercises, and I've done them a lot. Now I don't do them every day, but when I do it, I go overboard probably. But it's made the base very thick, so I've got a very thick member, I guess to say. So it's not to toot my own horn or anything. Like I said, I'm not very long, but I'm very thick. So that's something I am proud of that. But that's before I knew Saturn was here. So, you know, and once again, this is all up to the practitioner of whoever's studying. So yeah, I gotta get ready for my shower, but whoever's studying this, like I said, you can pick and choose and pick the good signs and the bad signs. So if you have Saturn and Scorpio and you don't want to admit that maybe you do have a smaller member, or whatever the case is, maybe you're young and you haven't fully developed yet, so maybe you're a late bloomer. I mean, I experimented with a lot of different things at a young age, which could have stunted my growth, possibly. First time I was intimate with a woman was age 14, and my girlfriend at the time was in grade 8, so I was very young. So I can imagine she probably might not even have felt it, I don't know. But, you know, I was probably only about, anyways, why am I talking about my dick size? I'm sorry, everybody. I gotta keep this PG, so in case there is kids watching, and once again, I put my stuff 18 plus, just in case. But it's up to the parents of the children to make sure they monitor their computer use so that, you know, they're not on stuff like this. But at least I'm describing things and talking about it, and versus just, you know, just being stupid. And everyone knows that mature content is for immature people. You know what I mean? That's why kids like watching mature content, because it's immature. Like, I don't even like watching things that are quote unquote mature, except for stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is the exception to that rule. I like watching stand-up comedy because I think there's a lot of occult knowledge in a stand-up comedy, because comedians say things they either shouldn't, or most people are thinking and too scared to say. So anyways, that's why I watch that. Anyways, I gotta get in the shower. But before I go, I just want to say to anyone who is interested in Vedic astrology or anything like that, check out the 2 people I mentioned. Definitely check out Alicia Sharp as well. I think it's the Divine Venus now. But check out her page, because she gives a lot of good astrology knowledge as well. I don't know if she's sidereal or Vedic or topical or whatever, but she definitely has good interpretations for what house and what sign. And that's always good. These people can still come up with good interpretations. And what you're looking for a good astrologer is somebody who's in tune, who's getting intuition from somewhere, and who is depolarized enough, or at least polarized in a specific area. So if you're listening to somebody and they have the same signs as you, well, they're gonna grab on personal experience. And you know, if the people I mentioned don't have some of the same signs as you, well, you will find that person once you start looking. They're just going to stand out to you. You're going to pick them. You're not even going to know why you picked them, but all of a sudden you're going to pick them, and they're going to have probably maybe 1 or 2 of the same signs as you. So you're going to get a good interpretation from there. But the reason why I have 3 main ones I listen to is for that very reason, because you need to get different information from different people. But anyway, so check them out. Astrolada, KRS1, Astrology, Astrolada, and the Divine Venus, formerly Alyssa Sharp, or Alyssa something. So anyways, I think that's it for today. I know I didn't get into too much. All I wanted to really point out was that even if you've been putting out videos for a while, even if you think you've gotten to a certain enlightenment, even if you think you know a lot, there's still more you can learn. There's still more out there for you. And some of the stuff you might already know might not be accurate. And it's okay. It's okay to admit defeat. It's okay to admit you're wrong, because from there you can grow. As before, I thought Saturn was in my marriage house, right? And I thought he was in Capricorn, and that means a whole different ballgame. But, and I mean, some of it made sense. You know, you can always relate to something on some level. But where my places are now, and the interpretations that I'm looking up for all these new houses or new signs, or both for Saturn, it means more, and it strikes me on a more level. And trust me, go listen to Saturn and Scorpio if you don't believe me. It's not necessarily good. Maybe I'll even play it for you and hear a little snippet of something, just so you know I'm not just doing this to hear myself talk. I'm trying to teach through my lesson of learning that I don't know everything, and I can be wrong, but from that I can learn something. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. Actually, have a great fucking day.
Hi guys, my name is Alyssa and welcome back to my channel. Today I am starting